Wait, there's something amazing I came across the internet the other day.
Take a sip of our freshly squeezed orange juice and let the juicy, sweet liquid run down your throat.
This is a completely AI-generated video, right from its visuals to sound, even editing, for instance. Now, if you showed me this just last year, I may have not believed you, but now it's all possible due to the evolution of a technology called generative AI. Maybe in another instance, this might have taken a few hundreds or even $1,000 to make. And just a few years ago, we thought this was cool. Now you can literally almost do anything with AI. With this kind of shift, can we see AI taking over creative roles in the industry? We always talked about AI taking over jobs, but the shift for the most part has been slowly progressing. But what we saw this year has been a complete shift by almost a decade. I mean, can this be the beginning of AI taking over complete individual roles? Look, there's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot changing with media. And we'll go through all of it and answer the big question: can AI win an Oscar in the years to come?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
AI is being used for scripting, for shooting and producing movies.
The rise of artificial intelligence, which it could replace millions of jobs.
Should we develop non-human minds smarter than our own?
Hollywood production is being transformed by artificial intelligence.
Of course, it wasn't always like this. Someone began with things like this. This is 1989. What you're seeing here is one of the first convolutional neural networks that could recognize handwritings accurately. Neural networks are computational models that are somewhat designed to function like the human brain. Neural networks are inspired by the way the human brain works. Just like our brains, neural networks consist of interconnected neurons that process information. In a neural network, artificial neurons receive inputs from other neurons or external sources. These inputs are combined and processed to produce an output. When a neuron in the brain receives enough input signals, it fires and sends an electrical signal to other neurons. In a neural network, the artificial neurons also produce an output signal when the combined inputs reach a certain threshold. This is the kind of technology that later came into effect with reading checks at ATMs. Then, in the late 1990s, we had the introduction of video compression algorithms, which introduced us to a new compression standard called MPEG-2. This changed a lot of things with TV broadcasting. It improved picture quality, allowed users to have more channels because broadcasters could fit more options within the same amount of space. Broader broadcasting, they were able to reach more people as well. A better broadcasting channel and computer vision allowed us to see the early days of sports tracking, like Hawkeye in cricket. It also meant they could do a deeper analysis on sports videos. And the next milestone we saw was deep learning revolution. Advancement in prominent models such as AlexNet and VGGNet led to noticeable changes in image classification and recognition. So it went from reading text to being able to accurately identify if a picture contains a cat or a dog. And it became much, much faster. It also brought in the cool features that lets you organize all your photos by face, features, or objects. There was this time we were doing our filing and my receipts were all across my photo gallery. And I tried this search feature on Google Photos and it just amazed me. I mean, right now, probably this is something very common, but back then for me, this was pretty cool. Further, we also saw some other machine learning models like RCNN in 2014 and YOLO in 2015 improve object detection in video. And this is what makes a lot of the self-driving applications work, and it enabled better features in surveillance as well. So then comes Deep Dream. So these were the first 3 images created by the Google employee Alex Mordvintiev, the Google employee behind Deep Dream. The way Deep Dream worked was that they designed algorithms using deep neural networks to generate surreal and psychedelic images by enhancing patterns and features within images. So this did not generate images from scratch and rather used existing images to enhance them. It would take an input on a pre-trained deep learning model and enhance or exaggerate features that it's been trained to identify. And it's 2015. Around that time, Snapchat comes out with this thing called filters, and everyone's just jumping on the bandwagon. From 2015 to 2016, Snapchat grows by 60% that year. Its highest growth in terms of users of any year. Snapchat filters essentially worked by using computer vision and AR technologies to track facial expressions. Once these are tracked, Snapchat filters or lenses would be used to overlay effects on your face in real time. I don't know how many of you remember this. In 2016, Prisma launched an app that turns your photo into sketches. And it's viral at the time. Prisma used a method known as neural style transfer. It's a technique that lets you combine two pictures together to create a new picture that looks cool and artistic. It's like taking the content from one picture, which is like the main object and shape, and mixing it with the style from another picture, which is like the colors, patterns, and texture. And then in 2017, we have advancements in deepfake technology. So this scene created in Fast and Furious in 2015 was one of the early attempts at deepfake. It wasn't as developed. That's why you can see some of the scenes looking a bit odd. But by 2017, this takes off, and you have something unbelievable that follows.
For instance, they could have me say things like, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. You see, I would never say these things.
And this was a time when everyone starts to question where this could go. I mean, there was definitely a lot of fears because people also started seeing this technology get misused a lot. And 2022 to 2023 changes everything. The introduction of ChatGPT opened the space to the world of generative AI. This changes everything. Essentially, generative AI is designed to mimic how humans interact. It involves training computer algorithms to learn patterns and structures from existing data and then use knowledge to generate new original content. This existed in some form of sequences, but creating original content wasn't in as much capacity. If you look at tools like Spinbot, they were kind of used to sway away from plagiarism checks, though the phrases would seem obvious that they were simply replaced. And it's not like other companies weren't working on generative AI, but the moment someone comes out with something this big out of nowhere, Google, Adobe, and every other company is forced a hand. The next thing that happens is nothing short of wow. You can click a button and cut your clip, use your movement to animate a character, enhance your audio, create animation, create digital art that would otherwise take hours to make within seconds. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Can AI win an Oscar award? Let's explore the possibility. With this 40-page document, understand a little about how Oscars work and see why it can and why it can't win an Oscar award. I don't know if I should call this a disclaimer, but the rundown that I'll be going through will be with certain assumptions in place. And my rundown will be simplified, so if you'd like to go over the detailed document, I will be putting the link in the description for you to read through. Let's understand this 40-page document that explains the criteria, categories, and process for winning an Oscar. Starting with the categories. There are 18 categories when it comes to these awards. You have starting with the acting categories, then you have animated short film, cinematography, animated feature film, costume design, directing, documentary feature film, and all these other categories. After categories, we have a few minimum eligibility requirements, which kind of describes the formatting and what really was the minimum requirement before you can even apply for an Oscar. Then you have award year and deadlines. Basically, this just describes when you can submit and when it should have released for it to qualify. And then comes submission. And then the rule on submission goes along how you have to submit it. But let's break this down to why and where it could win. First, it could win in film editing. In film editing, the key criteria is that film editors should hold principal position in the editing process. If you create a process where you have a chat assistant like ChatGPT and prompts that can figure what needs to be done based on the shot, script, and work with the director to shape the narrative, pacing, and overall storytelling, you essentially have a functioning film editor that works on its own. And then music. You've probably already heard about this story. This was a song that was completely created by AI, from music to vocals. AI tools have been able to create music that do a lot better than humans in a lot of cases. I know there's a lot of concerns with this piece legally and technically, but it's just been about a few months to a year where we've started to see products in this space. The other one would be in sound. With clear understanding of how sounds work, it should easily be able to generate some of the best sounds. One key reason: precision on sound. It could analyze the visual elements and easily create some of the best sounds. Writing is one category as well that it could have a clear chance of winning. This one is very clear. Capacity for AI written content has gone far. To some point, it is not even detectable by tools for plagiarism. And quite the topic of debates going on now with the SAG-AFTRA strikes as well. And then the other category where I think it could really win is animated short film or animated feature film. We started this video by showing you a video that was created visually completely by AI. So with the technology we have and with the art we're seeing that generative AI is creating, this is definitely something we can see in time to come. So in order to qualify, there's a maximum of 4 designated nominees, one of whom must be the credited director who exercised directorial control, and the other of whom must have a director or producer credit. The way I visualize is the generative AI text tool being the producer directing the animate. In between all of this, how are we going to deal with this in the future? Like for acting, what if the acting was completely done by a stunt double? Or even further, what if the actor's performance was based on a trained data set from another actor? Aside from that, there are 2 key reasons why I think it couldn't win. One, the awards are intended for individuals. The guide is specific, mentioning across several places that the award is intended for individuals. And by technicality, I would consider that an AI tool can't be counted as an individual. The other is, if something doesn't require effort, would it deserve a ceremonial award? A little known fact, the Oscar Awards were created to stop people from unionizing. So if it's not for people, would awards continue to exist? The other reason why it couldn't win could be crediting. It's very difficult to assign credit on this scale. For something that was built by many individuals or an organization, we're in this place of conflict of assigning credit to something that we don't know who actually contributed to it. Other than AI in itself, how do we manage the idea of other major contributors? Because the whole piece has the people who built and trained the model, the people who created the content that was used to train the model, or the person giving the prompts. But this sparks a bigger question. What if AI could win an Oscar award? Would it be okay for humans to award AI with an award in an ethical sense? Because look, this does take away a lot of creative objective from others. As a concept, it kind of does what we do, inspire art of others. But the difference is that when humans do inspire from others, there are several checks in place. Some even get caught up in something they didn't do. Some are held accountable, and some just get away with it. Few of the key concerns that are raised are: 1. Does AI deserve it? If we go by a simple concept of awarding to recognize someone's effort and recognition, then does AI deserve the same level of appreciation? Because essentially, it's a tool that's designed to do what it does. The difference being that in this case, it's able to vary outcomes better because of how the model works, thus leading with more variation than others. A counter question: what about teams that use it? Are they equally deserving versus a team or a production that wrote the script or the entire creative work in-house? I mean, you don't get extra points for not using robots for camera movements. So this really begs, where does it differ? The other limitation is also royalties. For instance, as an artist, if you were to appropriately use someone's song to recreate your own version, there's a way to facilitate royalties. But what about when you're not aware from where the AI is taking the data from? Or 2, from how many individuals it's taking the data from? Now, who owns this entirely new sandwich? And when does something turn from plagiarism to inspiration? Who's to decide that? This has become a long-standing debate in AI art as well. If you take a look at these images, they're almost the same, but one was drawn by digital artist Yann and another by AI. Many other instances. One of them is where it's been found that Getty Images data has been used to train the AI. And Getty Images is suing the creators of Stable Diffusion for scraping its content without permission. Yes, there is this conversation of this being some place where blockchain could bring traceability to the art. 3. Could this change or remove certain awards? There have been instances in the past where Academy Awards have removed certain awards from selection purely based on a changed nature. For example, Best Short Subject, Color, which later got replaced by Best Short Film because color film was no longer a big deal. Best Engineering Award, which later got merged with the Sound Effects category, creating Best Special Effects Award. This is something we might end up seeing with Academy Award categories as well, just because some categories might just end up becoming redundant and something that AI does by itself. There's a lot to unpack here, and the answer is confusing. With the ethical dilemma to the technicalities, this whole subject is going to be a long-standing debate for the next few years or even decades. But here's my thoughts. Whether or not we would consider awarding AI for their abilities is irrelevant to me. What I know for now is that this has leveraged more people to create better, and that's exciting and scary too. This takes the standard for content higher. For anyone, and even for me, I just started creating, spent all this time to learn all of these tools, and now a lot of them are irrelevant. And that's the reality with everything. The only constant in life is change. And this changes everything in terms of content, emails, communications. You can no longer have a poorly written email or a badly edited photo. This is like what social media did for reach. A common person could take their phone and voice their concern. This is doing the same for creatives and the common crowd. Now imagine someone could, with their phone, have a virtual editor, animator, writer, execute their idea. We'll continue to have people that prefer traditional forms of art, but this will make it possible for more people to appreciate and consume a form of art that was earlier accessible to a few. So in a way, I'm nervously excited for where this can go.